Good morning, Spartans. Welcome to week 10 of online school. With the rising number of COVID cases in Madison, I'd like to remind you to wear a mask and socially distance. If you're a senior, please turn in your portrait to the yearbook staff at the email address right here. If you are a freshman, sophomore, or junior, you also need to turn in a picture of yourself. The picture should be from about your shoulders to a little bit above your head. If you do not submit a picture, your picture from last year will be used. I don't think you want that happening. The yearbook staff would also like a picture of your Halloween costume and any pictures of what you did this summer. Now we have a clip of the week with Miss Rongstad.
Hey guys, today we're talking to Miss Rongstad, an English teacher at JMM. I'll let her finish introducing herself.
I have been teaching at Memorial. This is my 9th year. I actually did my student teaching at Memorial the year prior, so I've been kind of at Memorial for 10 years. I went to college at UW-Madison for my undergrad in English and creative writing, and then I got a certificate in and I double majored in women's studies, and then I got a certificate in LGBTQ plus studies, and then I went back and got my teaching license. So yeah, that's my educational experience.
What are some important issues that are facing Madison and also specifically JMM's LGBTQ plus community?
Just specifically thinking about LGBTQ plus youth, like in schools and in, I guess, like a school setting. I think COVID has like presented a lot of unique and interesting challenges, just about like identity and validating identity online. But also I think just thinking about school in general, students being able to feel sort of represented in their curriculum and in their coursework, like students feeling represented and students feeling like validated by like what they're learning. I think for a long time, when I was in high school, like we didn't learn about like LGBTQ plus identities or like people that had those identities. And I think that there are lots of big shifts that are being made, and there are students that are advocating for themselves and like recognizing like I should see myself in the curriculum. And similarly, I think that within the LGBTQ plus community, the moves that we need to be making to engage in anti-racist work and the overlap that needs to happen. I think that with white LGBTQ plus people, there is racism embedded in like our community, and in white supremacy has we've grown, white gay people have grown up in systems that are fueling white supremacy the same as straight people have. And I think that a lot of times, because someone identifies as LGBTQ plus, you sort of think that you're immune to things like white supremacy, which is not true. So I think that a really pressing issue is merging a lot of the merging communities together to see that we gay people need to work on being anti-racist the same. Just because we're gay doesn't mean that we're immune to that.
How do you think the election has changed people's viewpoints towards members of the LGBTQ community?
So I guess I kind of mentioned this already, but I think that there's increasing acceptance for same-sex marriage and for like some policy that like the national numbers of accepting same-sex marriage are like the highest they've ever been. I think that people saw that like, hey, like the world didn't explode because we started allowing people of the same sex to get married. So I think that slowly that's shifting. But I think even more importantly, we've had, I think, a record-breaking number of out LGBTQ plus politicians just elected this last, just like 2 days ago. So like, I mean, I think the more that, again, like this is visibility, this is like normalizing and seeing that LGBTQ plus people are just people that are your neighbors, that are your, people that work at the grocery store, like they're just people. Like, oh, the first trans woman in Delaware is now in their state senate, like for the first time, like historically, which is pretty powerful and cool. And I think it's just going to continue to increase, that people are going to start, being able to feel comfortable being out and like, owning their identities in a way that like it's not the only thing they are, but it's a really important part of who you are. And I think the nation will, I think, follow in some cool ways, I hope.
Do you think there's like some policies or ideas that have come up in recent politics that have hurt like the progress we've made for members of the LGBTQ plus community? So for example, like there was some talk about the Supreme Court trying to revoke the legalization of same-sex marriage.
So I think even more troubling than that sort of more broad discussion is the Supreme Court heard a case yesterday. I wrote it in my notes, Fulton v. City of Philadelphia, but it's this Catholic adoption agency is basically arguing that they should be able to discriminate against same-sex couples when placing foster kids. And that is the type of policy, that's the type of argument that really undermines what same-sex marriage really tries to do, right? Like granting people the right to be in a union together. But then at the same, so we have same-sex marriage, but guess what? Like I could go to the grocery store and like the baker couldn't, like would be able to not sell me a cake because I'm gay. So like this idea of religious freedom is chipping away at what, rights people should have, regardless of their identity. So I think that marriage is one very lofty and wonderful thing that we, as LGBTQ plus people, like have protections because of marriage. But there are still groups of people that are really trying to using religious freedom sort of as the reason, trying to chip away at like rights that, and allow people to discriminate because of their beliefs.
So, just like all this stuff is happening, how can other people help those who identify within the LGBTQ plus community feel more safe and welcomed, even at school or just in general?
Just the idea of like visibility. I know like as a high school student, like I would have like loved to see myself, like I was not out in high school, but I would have loved to like have a teacher like have us read a short story with gay characters, or have us, like talk about a scientist that was, like that type of thing. It seems so trivial, but like being able to see yourself reflected in what you're learning is so powerful. And I think that's what teachers, I think, need to be doing and need to be really actively trying to do. And not just with LGBTQ plus people, but with the BIPOC community, with like all people that are marginalized. I think kids need to see themselves, and Memorial has a really diverse community of people that come from lots of different places and lots of different backgrounds. And it's so affirming to see yourself in front of the classroom. We don't live in just because gay marriage is legal doesn't mean that people's attitudes are changing in the ways that you'd think maybe they'd change. So I think that like the importance of affirming identities and talking about issues and normalizing issues that are really relevant to LGBTQ plus kids and people is like kind of life and death for a lot of kids and adults too. How dire like it is that we are making changes that are going to meaningfully impact kids.
Thanks for talking to us and informing us on this important issue.
All right. Have a great week, Spartans.